Dozier frequently took part in the Hebsed festival, in which the king took a ceremonial run around a racecourse. He was expected to win this physical contest, suggesting that in some way his strength was linked to the good of his country. By winning the race, it reaffirmed the pharaoh's power to protect Egypt. However, the fact that the Egyptians felt the need for a renewal festival at all suggests that a certain fear that the pharaoh's power might fade if not ritually reinforced. When Dozier did finally die, he wasn't buried in the traditional graveyard at Abydos. He had already built his own tomb all the way back north at Saqqara. He also abandoned the traditional mud brick tombs of the Second Dynasty. His tomb would be stone, and it would last forever because it was not a departure place for his spirit's journey to the next world. It was a place where the pharaohs still lived. Laid out around Dozier's tomb was an entire city for his spirit, a Hebsed course and houses, plus stone walls and columns. His spirit would rest in a small chamber called the Serdab, which was wrapped in a white limestone cloak. The walls of the Serdab had 2 eye holes, so the statue could look out toward the rising sun. There was also an altar beneath it, where priests offered food to the tomb. At the center of the city of the dead, built over top the tomb itself, stood the first Egyptian pyramid, the Step Pyramid. 6 levels of stone blocks rose up stepwise to a height of around 200 feet. Imhotep, Dozier's vizier, was the first man in history to design a structure made out of hewn stone. For his idea for the hewn stone building, he could have come from stacking stone-walled and square-topped covers, called mastabas, on top of the tomb. However, there was no logical reason for him to be stacking the mastabas in the first place. Imhotep most likely borrowed the step design from Sumerian ziggurats. The function of the Sumerian ziggurats themselves is not entirely clear. They may have been designed by default. It is possible that the stepwise construction became an accepted form and was useful because, at the top of the ziggurat, Sumerians were able to carry out their rituals very close to the sky.
Imhotep's innovation of the step pyramid earned him many great honors such as the greatest priest and wise man of Egypt, and was known as the god of medicine. The step pyramid, the first of the great Egyptian pyramids, shows more than an effort to redefine death as an absence of the body and presence of the spirit. It shows the beginning of a new kingdom of Egypt, a peaceful and united one with an orderly bureaucracy. Dahosir's reign lasted only 19 years, which was pretty short for such a huge building project to take place. Stones had to be quarried from relatively far distances as the pyramid was constructed by a large workforce of men. Tax collection was also needed to supply money, meaning this was the first instance of Egypt having a source of internal revenue. The creation of pyramids allowed Egypt to reach a new level of prosperity and organization. There are 9 surviving efforts at pyramid building in the first 2 Old Kingdom dynasties, some more successful than others, but all displaying the same mastery of men and resources. After Dahosir, Skehemetet took over with a plan to increase the pyramid steps to 7 steps, but it was never completed as he died 6 years into his reign. Kaba, the 4th king of the 3rd dynasty, attempted to build 7-step pyramid in Lower Kingdom. However, it too remained unfinished as the pyramid's reach exceeded Kaba's grasp. The final pyramid of the 3rd dynasty was built by the last king Huni, called Mendem. Pyramid which was supposed to have 8 steps but also went unfinished until it was finished off by the first king of the next dynasty.
The main difference between the 3rd and 4th dynasties was that the 4th dynasty understood how to build pyramids. The first king, Snefru, started by finishing the Medum pyramid, as well as adding some new innovations to it, such as putting the burial chamber inside the pyramid and adding a causeway. He also attempted to cover the pyramid in a casing of some kind. If it had worked, it would have been the first smooth-sided pyramid. Unfortunately, the architect was not nearly as skilled as Imhotep, and the pyramid collapsed. However, instead of giving up, he decided to build a brand new pyramid instead. This pyramid was designed to be slope-sided with a smooth facing of limestone. Nobody exactly knows the reasoning behind Snefru's decision to make the pyramid slope-sided, but theories range from religious purposes to making pyramid landmarks on the map. Partway through construction, Snefru and his crew realized the angles were off. If they continued at the same steepness, the narrow base would not have been able to support the rest of the stone and collapse. Some quick altercations to the pyramid's measurements fixed the problem, but made the pyramid look hunched over, thus giving it the nickname the Bent Pyramid. This pyramid was completed, but never used. Snefru failed to design an eternal resting place that satisfied him, so he decided to work on a 3rd pyramid, the Northern Pyramid. This pyramid is wider, broader, and steeper than the previous pyramids. This design was so good that even to this day there remains no cracks in the walls or ceilings of the pyramid. The Northern Pyramid was most likely the final burial place of Snefru, as archaeologists found a body which was eventually lost when it was shipped for identification. Since Snefru had set the standard so high, building pyramids was no longer about creating a space for a pharaoh to continue their life past death, but for each pharaoh to outdo the next one.
The fact that Snefru was able to complete one pyramid and build 2 more suggests that Egypt was now even richer and more peaceful and more subject to the authority of the pharaoh than ever before. Sneferu's son Khufu inherited his power and exercised it to its fullest. He continued on in the military expeditions and planned for his own pyramid. Khufu's reign lasted anywhere from 25 to 50 years depending on the source, but even the minimum was enough time to begin the biggest building project yet. The Great Pyramid was laid out with a full complex and was based on the designs of Sneferu. The pyramid was built on the Giza plain, peaking at 481 feet with higher steepness than the northern pyramid. The Great Pyramid is remarkably even on all sides and has the northern shaft of the king's chamber facing the pole star. In order for Khufu to construct the monument in the first place, he needed to assemble one of the largest workforces in human history. Having command over this much manpower illustrated his ability to oppress his people. The pyramids stand as signposts to that power. The stories of Khufu's evil suggested that he was willing to exercise his power at the expense of his subjects. He was so busy building that he closed down temples and told people to stop offering sacrifices. One particularly cruel story was that, due to running low on funds, Khufu installed his daughter's room with orders to entertain any men and pass the cash to him. The result was the Middle Queen's Pyramid, which stands near the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid can be traced as the old example of monumental architecture, or buildings which are much more elaborate than planning requires them to be. The less necessary the pyramid was, the more they testified to the power of the builders.
The Great Pyramid has been at the center of more conspiracy theories than almost any other structure on the planet. The theories range from the pyramid being at the geographical center of the Earth, to being reproductions of the constellation Orion, to being built by residents of the city of Atlantis. Other theorists insist that mathematical calculations show that the Great Pyramid is a scale model of the hemisphere, and that whoever built it knew the precise circumference of the planet and the length of the year to several decimals. The weirdest of the theories comes from the Swiss hotel keeper, Erich von Däniken, who claims that because the Egyptians did not have the necessary technology, the pyramids must have been built by aliens. Although the Egyptians were not the most mathematically advanced, the concept of the pyramids took a simple understanding of calculations. Moving the blocks was difficult, but that did not require math. As for the far-fetched theories, the failed pyramids before Khufu's reign show that the process was not as easy as these theories suggest it would be. The pyramids stand as testaments to the might of the pharaohs who constructed them. In modern-day society, people are constantly in desperate attempt to extend their lifespan through new medicinal innovation, similarly to the Egyptians who built pyramids in order to extend the spiritual lifespan of their beloved pharaohs. The pyramids represent the legacy of the pharaohs, a way for them to live on after they have passed on into the afterlife. Nowadays, death in our society is not about needing to live on after you have passed away, but rather to live longer to avoid death in the first place. Medicinal innovation for longer life now allows for people to extend their legacies before they eventually pass away.